All right, thanks everyone for your patience. We're going to go ahead and get started. We'll get into our presentation in just a moment. So you can see on your screen here, you're in Skype for Business, where it's from, where it's going, and how it works for you. Just a couple things I wanted to mention before we get started. We're going to be doing, time permitting, a Q&A session at the end of our talk here, and you should see in your GoToWebinar panel there's a questions section, and you can ask questions there. I'm going to be keeping an eye on those, and I'll facilitate a Q&A at the end with our speaker, Greg Plum. I also wanted to mention that just like all of our 365 Ninja Live sessions, the recording for this session will be sent out as a follow-up, so if you need to step out for any reason, you'll still have a chance to catch up with what you've missed. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, our presenter, Greg Plum. He comes to us with a wealth of experience in Skype for Business and in channel development in general. He's been involved in channel development since 2001, and his company PlumUC provides unified communication, conferencing, collaboration solutions, and he focuses a lot on working with Microsoft partners to understand and implement voice options for Office 365 and Skype for Business. So perfect fit for this talk, and we're lucky to have him. With that, I will turn it over to Greg.
Thanks, Rachel, very much. Well, thank you all so much for your time this afternoon. We're going to make sure we make good use of it and show you some things that you're going to walk away with some real valuable tidbits. Whether you're already a user or if you're just thinking about it, you should walk away with some real valuable information. So as the title mentions, we're going to talk about really how we got here. Where are we right now and how did we get here? So I view Skype for Business, and I call it this. I don't know if anybody else has called it that. I haven't had anybody say I'm infringing upon any trademarks yet, but I view it as like the offspring of the power couple. Lync and Skype being the two components of the power couple. Lync historically has always had a very very wide adoption, or the most widespread adoption at the larger enterprise level, whereas Skype, much more personal, the residential side, or very, very small or micro business level. Lync was always known as kind of the Cadillac, right? It was the high-end solution that really looked to displace many of the classic providers in the space. Classic providers being like what we're using today, the Citrix platform, or Cisco's WebEx. I mean, all the other platforms that are very, very competent, very good solutions. Lync was really going right after that market. The thing that was, to me, most disruptive about it, and really why I kind of changed career paths, where I started out focusing just on conferencing, audio, video, web conferencing. Lync really was one of those tools that was instrumental in taking the customer and the channel, the partner channel, really into the unified communication space, and it's fully integrated, leading the end user to have a real robust, complete, holistic solution, as opposed to various siloed solutions. Now, you'll know what I mean when I say siloed. We'll get into that a little bit more. But Lync had a reputation for being very high security, very professional, and it just had the infrastructure that the large enterprise demanded. Whereas Skype had the user interface that was very friendly and easy to navigate and fairly intuitive. It also happened to have massive, massive appeal. We had Skype itself had over 300 million users, so there was already a built-in community. So when Microsoft, announced or went and purchased Skype, it raised some eyebrows. It raised even more eyebrows, including my own, when they said, "Guess what? That Lync product that you know about, we're going to rename it. It's going away as that brand. We're going to now call it Skype for Business." So there was clearly a wisdom there. Some of us didn't see it at the time, some did. Right now it's looking like Microsoft is absolutely going in the right direction with this, and the end result is a product that is really has a familiar interface that came from Skype. It has the reach, the 300 million users that came from Skype, and you'll see there is interoperability between the two, and I'll show you exactly what that means. Yet it still maintained the enterprise characteristics and requirements of the previous brand of Lync, and that's, you know, security, stability, and just truly meant for an enterprise deployment, not just for a residential. So what we want to do is really show you a little bit. We can't talk about where we are right now without talking a little bit about where we came from, what it looked like prior to. This may be news to some of you, maybe not, but just to give you, we're going to go real quick overview of, here's the old client. You know, if you're using Lync or Skype for Business, it pretty much is where you live. This is your one pane for all of your communications. To the left is the older version, and it does not mean that it's gone. So on April 14th of this past year, Skype for Business actually rolled out officially, but does not mean that Lync deployments are gone and everybody automatically switched over. Now, Office 365, the brand that does roll out now, that's native, is Skype for Business, which is the brand on the right. But as you can see, a lot of the functionality, the layout is quite similar, just a little bit of a different feel. Some coloring is a little bit different, and some of the icons are a little bit different. But largely, you can see the similarities between the two. So as far as the meeting layout goes, also fairly similar, but what Skype did, I think they did a very nice job, is they really put a focus on the gallery. There's the meeting gallery where you could see the users, just to make it a little bit more personal. And what I absolutely love about the product now, and I didn't realize how important it was going to be at the time, is the call controls are smack dab in the middle. You look at the middle of the screen on the Skype for Business side at the very bottom, those little icons, the circle icons, that's your call controls. That's where you're able to mute yourself, kick off a video, share your desktop, all right from within, you know, it's front and center. In the Lync layout, it was a little bit more obscure. You can see those controls were off down to the left-hand side, not quite as, you know, really in your face, but still there. The newer interface is just a little cleaner. It's just a little nicer. It's a little more personal. You know, once you make the switch, it's very difficult to go back, I assure you, because I've done both. I'm right now engaged with a client who has both formats, and once you've had a taste of Skype for Business, actually working with Lync is just a little bit more of a challenge, even though it's fully featured, fully functional. You can see once you actually kick off a meeting and you're sharing your desktop, this is what your screen's going to look like. And you notice the little icon with the screen share, the little monitor is how you kick off a screen share session. Very, very simple, very intuitive. So, you know, Rachel, I try not to impart too many of my opinions in this and try to make it very, not much of an editorial. However, I'm not a huge fan of emoticons or emojis, because that to me really does show that it's much more of a personal tool. However, I will tell you the good news is that the ability to turn them off if the admin wants to do that, that does exist. However, it's there. So it's a feature that came along with Skype, and some people love these. They absolutely love them, so it's there if the end user wants to take advantage of them. Not my personal favorite, but that's just my opinion, and that will be about my only editorial I'm going to add to this session, because everything else I absolutely love.
Opinions are... I was just going to say, your opinion is just fine to share.
Well, I try not to do that, but most of my opinions are all positive because I love this tool so much. This is the one thing I just think I was a little surprised by, but you can repress it, you can turn it off. But okay, there's my one thing I would say. You know what? If I had this to do all by myself, I would have gone and maybe axed the emojis. But anyhow, thank you for that. This is something absolutely is a lifesaver if you've ever been in a situation where you're trying to multitask, right? You're in the middle of a call, there's a conference call going on, and you decide, you know what, I've got to, or maybe your little window pops up and it alerts you that an email came in that you're waiting on. So what do? You navigate over. Of course, you're still listening, but you navigate over. You're playing in your inbox, and somebody calls on you and you get stuck. You have to hurry up and navigate back. Well, the beautiful thing about Call Monitor, which is brand new with Skype for Business, that window always stays at the forefront. It's going to follow you. That little black box will always be, no matter where you navigate on your computer, it's going to stay front and center. So the nice thing, now you don't have full controls, but what you can do from that window is you can mute the call, So you would, in most cases, people are muted during the call unless they're speaking just to keep it clean. But as soon as somebody calls on you, you can quickly, right from that screen, without having to go back to your Skype for Business icon down at the bottom of the screen and navigate back to that page, right from your inbox, you can simply unmute your line and answer the question and then move on your merry way and then click mute again, and then you haven't skipped a beat. Definitely a lifesaver if you've ever been caught kind of multitasking. File transfer has gotten a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer, easier to use, so you can actually drop and drag. You can go and grab a file from somewhere on your desktop, drag it right into your conversation box and the IM box, and it will transfer over, and then right from there your end user, if they want, they can download it. It's very, very simple, easy to use, and quite intuitive. Now this is where I mentioned when we first started the interoperability between Skype and Skype for Business, and I will tell you what you're going to hear. This may be a question that you have, or if you're out working with customers. Skype is not Skype for Business. And I get that all the time there, and it's understandable. It is not. It is Lync with a new face, a new skin, but they are not the same. So when somebody, for the very first time, when they go and log in into Skype for Business, they're oftentimes concerned, well, where are my Skype contacts? Well, they're not going to be there. Okay, it's a completely different platform. Completely different servers, so everything, the whole architecture is different, so they will not see that. But what's very nice is there is an interoperability. So when you go to add contacts, and you simply do that by clicking that little person icon with the plus sign, and then you would click you want to add somebody that's not in your organization, you see the option that pops up. You can actually click on Skype, regular Skype, as opposed to Skype for Business, and then it would pull up the Skype directory. You could type in the name and it'll find anybody of those, in those 320 million names. It's going to grab them and you'll be able to add them and add them to as your personal contacts in your Skype for Business client. That interoperability has helped. It just makes it a little bit easier to use. So this is something that can be set at the admin level. It could be set to pop up after every single call or after every 10th call, or however the admin feels is necessary. And what we'll do is it will, as soon as the call is over, it'll give you, the end user, the ability to rate that call. If you had a good experience, then you would mark it as such. If not, you can see it's very, very granular. You can talk about, was it muffled speech, or was it an echo, or was it distorted speech? Now, I guess the question is, well, I guess you're distorted to my muffled. They could be, who knows which is which. But this does give you the opportunity to report results, and the admins are able to monitor this just to ensure that the experience is as they are hoping for their end users. It's just a real easy way to monitor that. That's new with Skype for Business as well. Okay, so we've spent the last few minutes, and I think I'm pretty bullish. I think Skype for Business is one of the best communication tools out there. However, it is not Nirvana. It doesn't have everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little bit of time now talking about exactly what is missing from Skype for Business. So if you'll notice, and I'm going to draw attention to the obvious, the elephant in the room is the fact that we are not using Skype for Business for this session today. We're using GoToWebinar. Why is that? Well, in its native form, Skype for Business does not have very good comprehensive webinar tools, including the invites that you receive and sending out the calendar, the calendar events, I guess, where it would book it to your calendar, the iCal type events that'll hit your calendar. So that isn't, if you're going to have a larger scale event, that's something that typically you're going to want to have, and people are going to want to register so you can track that. So in its native form, Skype does not include that. Now there are companies that have add-ons for that, and we'll address that very, very, very briefly. But what we're going to talk about now is, as great as Skype is, there are a couple things missing, but it doesn't mean you can't get them. This is just to show you some other opportunities, some other add-ons that you might want to look at for depending on what your customers' needs might be. So the first is conferencing. Now, Skype itself does include a conferencing component, and actually the bridge that's included will accommodate up to 250 lines. So you can get up to 249 of your closest friends to join you on a bridge. But In its native form, it only includes VoIP access, voice over IP. It does not include PSTN or regular telephone access. In other words, somebody cannot call a phone number and gain access to your meeting. They have to click on a link, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. They have to click on a link to join you, and they have to be in front of a computer to do so. So there you can see why that might be somewhat of a limiting factor. So that's one area. We'll talk about that in a little more detail. Next is enterprise voice. That basically means that's a phone system. So it does exist, the ability exists to take Skype for Business and Office 365 and turn it into a hosted telephone system. It can replace anything. It can replace an existing on-premise system if you have an on-premise telephone network, or another hosted. If you're buying your phone service from somewhere else, another hosted company, you can replace that with a service that fully integrates into Office 365 via the Skype for Business client. And then this is the one I mentioned already a little bit, some of the enhancements. For larger webinars, the registration tool, which is critical. It's hard to have a large event if you're not going to have registration. Recording with Skype, it's there, and it works fine. The problem is management of the recordings. When you record, it's going to stay, the recordings, you would manage them locally on your machine as opposed to storing them in the cloud somewhere. So you can imagine recordings can get relatively large depending on the length of the recording. So as a result, it gets a little bit cumbersome sometimes in taking that content and sharing it with an audience after the fact. So there are other companies that have focused specifically on that. And that's the beauty of it. There are companies when they identify, myself included, when we identify a weakness or a gap in the offering, as strong as it is, we realize that there's a whole business opportunity there just to try to take this icon of a service and make it that much more full-featured and that much more comprehensive for the end user. And then the last one I'm mentioning here is the quality monitoring. There are companies that have stepped in and put basically an umbrella over top of the entire deployment. So if a customer has 365 and they have Skype for Business with voice, so it's their entire offering, you can imagine you've got an awful lot riding on that. So it becomes imperative to ensure quality connection at all times. And if there are any blips whatsoever, bells and whistles better be going off so the IT department knows and they can react. So there are services specific for that as well. That monitor the health of the network continuously. So we'll first talk about hybrid conference, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about because it's the easiest to deploy. And it's the easiest way to increase the functionality of Skype for Business for the end user, and it's a great add-on for a partner. If you're working with your customer, it's a way to have them take that investment in Office 365 and Skype and really take it to the next level. So what is it? Well, in its native form, it includes, and you'll notice I have Lync on this particular slide because right now, to this day, right now, Lync and Skype for Business can be mutually deployed in a common environment. When you purchase, let's say you've purchased Office 365, and it includes Skype for Business, and it includes Skype for Business Enterprise, which means it includes the conferencing capability. Well, when you have that conference, you send an invite out, it's going to include a link. Everyone's going to be able to join by voice over IP. And I already alluded to this a little bit earlier. What it does not include is the way for somebody outside the organization to join just from a telephone or from a mobile phone. So what we do is what other companies have done, and I get involved with this as well, it's one of my favorite things to do, is offer this hybrid bridge. What we'll do is provide a phone number, passcode, and send that to each user. And then what the admin is able to do is actually go into that admin portal in Office 365, load those credentials in by user. So for each user, they'll have a phone number and passcode. And it could be usually it's a couple of different phone numbers, a toll and a toll-free number with the meeting ID. And then the end users, when the host is sending out an invite, they're able to send it out including a telephone number. So the value there is everybody that's dialing in voice over IP, they're all free. There's no cost to do that. So you're going to reduce your conferencing costs. If you're using Skype for Business and then you have a completely separate third-party conferencing service, it makes sense to look at a hybrid solution because you'll be able to take some of those per-minute charges that you're paying to that third party and really incorporate them into your Skype service and get those minutes at absolutely no cost to you. And then the other benefit is really increasing your reach. So if you are able to provide a phone number along with the bridge, with the voice, the native bridge, you're going to get greater participation, because even if somebody has the client, if they're on the road, it's much easier for them to just dial in on their cell phone to gain access. Now, granted, they're only going to get access to the audio, but it's certainly a way to increase participation. So some of the features of a hybrid bridge, the beauty of it is the scale, right? You can get up to 150 lines. People can call in and hear the audio piece. And it is reservational. It's set up. There's no need to schedule, no need to say we're going to have on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, we're going to have 20 people dialing. It doesn't matter. It's always on and always will scale to 150 lines. And so now, once you've done this, you're providing the ability for them to connect by VoIP, which is included with the service, and then the hybrid solution, the toll and toll-free number. So somebody you can get people calling in from all over the world, actually, because there are international numbers as well, where somebody can be in the UK and in France, and in both of those, they can each have a toll-free number from their respective countries dialing into that same meeting. So all these people are gaining access to that one singular Skype for Business meeting. As we mentioned, it's fully integrated into the admin portal by the admin. It's quite simple, and it can be done one-off, or for larger deployments, it can be done in bulk, just by exporting and importing CSV files right through the admin portal to automatically populate the accounts with the credentials. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. In practice, once it's done, when the first step, whenever you're going to send out a conference, a conference call, what do? You send out an email, right? Just with the calendar invite, and then you would click on Skype meeting. And then what will happen, if you didn't have the hybrid bridge, this green section is missing. It's just going to say join Skype meeting. So everybody could click on that, and yes, everyone's connected at absolutely no cost. But by introducing the hybrid bridge, now we have a couple of phone numbers, and again, it could be a series of phone numbers depending on your particular deployment or where you needed numbers from different countries. They would all be displayed along with the participant passcode. People can dial that passcode, and they're now joining your call. So that's the only difference. By adding the hybrid bridge, now people can call a phone number to get in. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. And I want to make sure to draw kind of a real hard line, like a firewall between these two solutions. If a customer has Office 365 and their phone solution is fine, they don't need, they're current, they're thrilled, or if you're the end user, you love your phone system, yet you have Office 365 and you like Skype for Business, then we wouldn't talk enterprise voice. Enterprise voice is if you really want to replace your phone system with telephony that will integrate fully with Office 365. The first one we just talked about, the Skype for Business, that can be deployed with everybody, because essentially all we're doing is we're adding a phone number for people to be able to dial to gain access to that call, to that Skype meeting. So you wouldn't do both, because if we're doing, right now we're going to look at enterprise voice, that becomes your phone system. You don't need a hybrid bridge, right? That stays away. All of your conferencing is going to stay on the Skype bridge. I think it'll be a little bit more clear as I dig in here, because now the more I talk, I know you're getting confused, but I promise you're going to be crystal clear by the time we're through here. So a hosted architecture, if we're talking now, not just the bridge, but we're talking actually the whole telephony piece, hosted UC, meaning a hosted unified communications. So all you're doing is we're really taking your dial tone from your current provider and putting it on Skype and integrating it fully with Skype. What does that look like? Well, it's actually done by, there are companies out there called hosters, but the hoster is the most common, but they're essentially they're carriers that have their own Skype for Business servers on site. So you don't have to have that. You know, when you buy Office 365, your Skype for Business license is housed directly with Microsoft. This, what we would do is work with a company that has their own servers. They've got their own licenses on Skype for Business that have been voice enabled. They have SIP trunks into them, turning them into full-blown phone systems. The beauty for the end user or the partner is you don't have that investment. You can buy a license to it. Just like you do Office 365, you can now buy a license to the voice component for Office 365. Now, there's another elephant in the room. If you've heard of the term, any of these enterprise class licenses, you may have heard E3, E4, or E5. So E5 is brand spanking new. It's actually not even out yet. And there will be some voice capabilities, PSTN voice capabilities and conferencing that I'm talking about today. Some form or fashion of that will be included with E5. We're not quite sure. I was actually at Microsoft about a month ago, and even at that date, pricing is unsure. Exact features and functionality is not quite determined just quite yet, or at least that was being shared at the time. So E5 is going to provide some of this capability that we're talking about right now, and you'll be able to buy it directly from Microsoft. The way I look at it, that's going to be one additional option. So if you or your customer wants to investigate adding voice into Skype for Business, you have all the other providers that are available today, and then soon you'll also have Microsoft as an option. You know, in some cases, Microsoft might be the best option, others they won't. Just going to be on a case-by-case basis. But the way we are right now today, if you wanted to take an Office 365 and Skype for Business account and turn it into a phone system, you have to be operating either E3 or E4. Now E4 is, you know, it sounds like it's going to be replaced completely by E5. So once it rolls out, you know, you or your IT consultant will be able to help you navigate this a little bit, but it will require an enterprise class license, and once you do that, the beauty of it is you can take that 365 license and turn it into a phone system. Everything, it's full featured. It's going to be, if you have different hunt groups, or if you have, you know, with auto attendance like an IVR, press 1 for sales, 2 for HR, you'd be able to do the exact same type of functionality. So the end user would not know a difference. The beauty of it is it's fully integrated into your Office 365 license, and it's leveraging that purchase. So let's talk about some of the features. It becomes your dial tone. So when you make a call on Skype for Business and you click on the little phone icon, now you have a choice. You have a choice to go VoIP, Skype to Skype call, or you can actually dial a regular old phone number just like you would from a phone. Now you could use a handset if you wanted, or you can use the soft client. Everything we looked at today was just the client, the window right on the computer, but there are handsets that have been optimized for Skype for Business that could be used, and it basically replicates the same experience for those people who really can't give up that phone, because there are some that are still like that. The way it is today, full Office phone functionality. As I mentioned, you can route calls certain, you know, however you want to. You can automatically, they would roll to voicemail, so that it's the same functionality you're used to today. The end user will see no difference. The value is that it's going to be fully integrated into that Office 365 system and purchased without any special equipment. It's all done on a license basis. So it takes that capital expense that you may have had with a classic phone system and moves it over to operating expense. A little bit easier to predict from a budgeting standpoint. Functionality, you can, how often are you sitting in? I do this all the time. I'm on a session just like this. What I could do is I could click a little button and automatically take that call and transfer it to my cell phone, and I don't skip a beat. My audio is going to stay exactly the same. So you're able to move between devices for ultimate flexibility. And there are also mobile apps as well. It's right. We're in a mobile first society, so there's no exception here. We've already talked about this a little bit. The licenses that are required, enterprise class licenses, E3 or E4, and then soon to be released E5. Once E5 comes out, that's when you'd want to talk with your, you know, either Microsoft partner or your IT department, or, you know, my information is going to be out here at the end. You can feel free to give me a call, because as soon as that's ready, then we're going to know how to deploy and what it's going to mean for everybody. So here is what the client looks like. Right now, if you don't have the enterprise voice, if you just buy it off the shelf, it looks just like this. And see, if you would click on the button, the phone button, the only option you have is Skype call or voice over IP call. Now once you've added enterprise voice, look what happens. You get this new little fancy icon, and all that is essentially it's a keypad. But then when you mouse over, you click on the phone icon, now suddenly you have choices. You can call Skype or you can call a new number. Now if you already have numbers in that for that contact, they're automatically going to pop up. So you can click on that number to call it, or you can click on the Skype call. And here's what your keypad looks like. So you can make a phone call. It's actually kind of nice. You can use the dial pad if you want, or you can simply go into where it says find someone or dial a number. You can dial the phone number right in there, and that becomes your phone system. And then you can see at the very bottom that your voicemails will show up in your client. Very, very full-featured. So when you make a call, the screen looks just like this. It's going to look a little bit similar. If you remember when we first started out, I showed you what the new client looked like. Very, very similar to this. And you can place calls on hold, you can place them on park, transfer calls, everything you would normally do with a classic phone system. Okay, so far what we've covered is Skype as a whole, how it's not Lync, it's not Skype, it's not Skype, it's kind of a marriage of the two. We talked about if you want to take that to the next level, but you're not ready to make it your phone system, but you would like to have a comprehensive conferencing solution. So then you talk about the hybrid bridge, giving you the ability to add a phone number to your Skype call. Has nothing to do with your phone system. Then you can move up the chain a little bit and say, you know what, we really do, our phone system is old, we're not happy with it, we want to take our voice to the cloud. Or we're already in a cloud, we want to integrate it more fully with our Microsoft platform. That's when we talk enterprise voice. That's where it becomes your dial tone. It becomes a unified communications platform. So right from that single interface, you're able to have an IM session. You can chat. You see presence. You'll know if somebody's available based on the color dot next to their name. You'll be able to take that call, that IM session, and with a single click, upgrade it to a phone call. If that's not enough, you can quickly upgrade it to a video call. If that's still not enough, you can upgrade to a screen share. So all from that single interface, you're able to have all these different modes of communication automatically built in. That is your unified communications platform. Not to mention the fact that you would have one phone number that would follow you everywhere and anywhere, whether that's good or not. Okay, so that's the features, that's how the product works, and with some of the add-ons we've talked about, but let's talk about the value proposition for you as a user. You know, is this a good thing? I mean, obviously it is, or else we wouldn't be here. So here's what you get kind of for the investment. If you're going to turn this into, now this whole thing is referring to enterprise voice. So what comes native when you buy Skype for Business, you already have the ability to IM, to chat using it. You have the ability to email, you have the ability to have a video conference, and you have the voice over IP, the Skype to Skype functionality. What you do not have is the phone, the telephony, the dial tone that's built into it. So by adding that, you're completing that. You're adding that last little missing piece, which is a pretty critical piece. What I love about this is it's very granular. What you can do to save money, you can get rid of the phones. You can rip out the phones, and then all of a sudden when a phone call comes in, the computer's ringing and you have your headset and you pop that, and that's how you go about your day. However, there may be certain power users or admins that really could benefit from still having a desktop phone. You can do that, right? And it's just going to mirror, that desktop phone is just going to mirror the experience using the soft phone. The nice thing is, though, if the phones are no longer required, you're not tied to your desk anymore. Your phone goes wherever you are, and all you need is internet access. Presence, in my mind, is really what ties it all together. It's very simple. If you're trying to reach somebody, you can see if they're available, and it's rich presence. It's going to recognize their availability based on their calendar. So if they're supposed to be in a meeting, it's going to automatically say, hey, they're busy. If they pick up the phone, it's going to say, yep, they're in a call. Interesting thing is, the call will still go through. You can set yourself as do not disturb. If you do that, then no calls are going through, no IMs, nothing. However, if you're not, if you're just showing up as busy, calls can still come in. You can always put a call on hold and go grab the other one if you'd like. But the beautiful thing about Rich Presence is you don't have to think about managing, what's my status? Am I available? Am I out of the office? It'll automatically do that for you. And if you're trying to track somebody down, it's very simple. You don't have to get up, walk across the office or to another floor. You can see if they're available just by looking at the color of the dot next to their name. And there's a little trick in there too. You can actually tag somebody. So if you tag them, as soon as they become available, it'll send you an IM and say, hey, that person you're trying to grab, they're there. You want to go get them? It's like legalized enterprise-grade stalking. This is a great way to control your cost because you know what you're going to be paying on a regular month-to-month basis, just like any other software. So with 365 itself, when you're buying that, you're paying a fixed rate per month, or if you've purchased annually, but you know exactly what your cost is. Same concept with this. What we're doing is we're just adding voice to it and we're putting it on a subscription. So it makes it very easy for you to predict your costs. So this to me says it all. What you're able to get today, your Office 365 subscription, an enterprise voice, meaning your dial tone, everything we talked about just now. So it's everything, your unified communications, all those different features bought in a subscription. You marry the two of them together, and all of that is going to come to you at about the cost of, or even a little bit less, the cost of a WebEx, a single WebEx license. So that's where you can see some of the value. Now, there are certain different types of WebEx licenses, different levels, and they can get more aggressive depending on how much you're buying. But if you look dollar for dollar at what the functionality is, you can literally get rid of WebEx completely, replace it with Office 365 for your compute or your compute functionality, and the enterprise voice that we've discussed, all of that for less than the cost of your WebEx license. Because in all, you're going to be in the ballpark of about $45-ish, somewhere in that range, for 365 plus the voice license, which is less than a WebEx license. So that is where the power of all of this is. It's certainly in the fact that it's a comprehensive solution, but it's also a cost-saving and a productivity solution as well. So that's it from a content standpoint. I am happy. There's certainly my contact information, and I would love to answer any questions that may have come in, Rachel.
Sure thing. We've got a few great questions that came into our question tab here. And again, for those of you in the audience, you can go ahead and if you've thought of any questions while Greg was speaking, feel free to drop them in there. We had an early question right out of the gate, which I think was just maybe kind of a premonition that this person asked. Do you see this replacing phone systems or is it supplemental to the system? And from my perspective, you covered it, but if there's a sound bite you have for that, you can go ahead and let us know.
No, I think, yes, it absolutely can. It's now it's an alternative to a classic phone system, absolutely, as a standalone phone system. Yep.
Right, and then we had a couple kind of more specific questions with people's environments that they have and configurations they have. So this person says, for those of us who do not subscribe to Click to run Office 365 installations of 2013, 2016, is there a standalone version of Skype for Business because the Click to run version is not compatible with their local installed volume licensed Office?
Yes, that's a great question. So you do not it's not required that you have Office 365. You can have the standalone Skype for Business license and have that voice enabled. However, it does have to be the enterprise grade. So there's a couple of different levels. It does need to be the enterprise, which is the one that includes the conference bridge. So if you have that, that can be voice enabled.
Along the lines of 2013, 2016 compatibility. So this person asks, and I think I can even answer this question because I've done it, but I've heard that Office 2016, when upgrading from 2013, will uninstall Skype. Is that true? I didn't have that experience. When I upgraded from 2013 to 2016, I didn't see any impact on Skype at all. But have you heard of anything like that?
I have not, and you're gonna laugh, but I have not upgraded, so I cannot speak from first-hand knowledge. But I have not heard of that as one of the the complications of the upgrade.
Got it. Well, that is good to hear. All right, so we've got a question. How is expected adoption of E5 with, and then kind of some options for almost hardware No headset, computer, laptop, mic, and speakers and video, headset suggestions, Bluetooth to phone, some VoIP phone, anything you can say kind of in that area?
Sure. So, and when you say E5, I just have to shake my head. I can't even say
We don't
because
know.
I specifically asked that when I was in at Microsoft. I even had the right person on stage and was able to ask the question, and he did a great job of being political and kind of dodged the question, which I expected, which is fine. I think E5 is going to certainly change things, but my gut tells me two things are going to happen. Number one, it's going to have some PSTN capabilities, for sure. We know that. I don't think it's going to be as full-featured as some of these. Now, the hybrid bridge, it may very well completely replace that. Hard to say. International, hard to say. But as far as the enterprise voice, my gut tells me, yes, there's going to be some basic functionality. I mean, think back to regular Skype, where you had Skype out capabilities. Well, you don't even have that capability right now with Skype for Business. There is no Skype out, right? You've got voice over IP, that's it, Skype to Skype, unless you add the other enterprise voice capability. So my gut tells me that E5 is going to give us something analogous to the Skype out type functionality, along with a phone number for people to be able to dial it and access you as well. Skype in, I guess, by PSTN. But I don't think it's going to have the same feature set that many businesses require today. The auto attendant is a big one. How you route calls, especially if you start running into, the average deployment right now. The typical customer who is purchasing enterprise voice is a 40-seat account. So we're not talking massive deployment. We're not talking micro business. We're talking, true medium or maybe small to medium-sized business. So as far as hardware goes, I can answer that one a little bit better. Yeah, I mean, this is not a Logitech commercial by any stretch. I'm sorry, not Logitech, Plantronics, but that's what I'm on right now. I have a Plantronics Bluetooth headset. Right now I'm on a wired one. They have pucks, the little speakerphone. As far as the phones go, I've used the Polycoms and I believe it's the VVX series. I think it's the VVX 400 or 410, somewhere around that, which is a beautiful system, beautiful phone that will have, it has a little screen on there that really mirrors your screen that you have on your computer. And there are some companies that I work with that actually will even finance them, so you don't have to worry about the capital expenditure on something like that as well. As far as adoption rates, yeah, if it was up to the end user, they're going to want to have a phone, but since it's usually not up to the end user, it's up to the finance area and or IT. They're trying to do a rip and replace and really get rid of, or just rip, not even replace, just rip, get rid of the phones altogether to get rid of that cost. So right now I'm seeing about a 50-50. I think that's going to be trending more toward just the computer and the soft client versus the standalone phone.
Great. We have a few more questions. I think we have a few minutes left to get to those. So this one, we have Lync EV on-prem. Is there a compelling reason feature-wise to upgrade to Skype for Business?
Well, just the user experience. Is there you can get to everything. I'd say from a feature set standpoint, it's just a little bit cleaner. You saw some of the features that we talked about. There's the call monitor, the file transfer is a little bit cleaner. The user interface, one thing you can do if you're using it for a conferencing piece or for like a webinar for screen share, there is some functionality that's included with Skype that is not included with Lync, such as polling, whiteboard, Q&A. So it just depends on what your specific needs are. Plus, the look and feel, it's just a little bit more personal. It's a little bit more user-friendly. Is it required? Absolutely not. But like I said, I now physically, I work with trainings on both platforms, and it's just easier to use, more intuitive using the Skype for Business platform.
Great. Well, I think that is a good note to end on. I see some people have had to drop, so we'll wrap this up. I know that there's a few questions we weren't able to get to, and like Greg said, he is available for more follow-up, and you can also follow up with me, ninja at 365ninja.com, and we'll be covering, there are some questions around like how-to tips, and that is something that I will certainly cover on 365ninja.com. So feel free to follow up, communicate with us. And then one more note, we have one last session in our 365 Ninja Live series in just about an hour from now. So if you're interested in adding cloud applications to your Azure AD, please go ahead and sign up on live.365ninja.com. I'm sure I'll see some of you there. And thanks so much to Greg. It was a great presentation. I think I learned a lot, and hopefully everyone else did too. And we hope to hear from you.
Great, Rachel. Thanks so much for the time. I appreciate the audience for sure.
Alrighty. Well, thanks everyone. I'm going to end the webinar now. Thank you.
Bye-bye.